So we back. Welcome to another BandClap TV rant video. I told y'all, man, I'm really trying to knock these out as many as I can. And like I always say, I appreciate all the people who checked out my last video, even the people who checked out my live video, because it's really rare that I even have the time to go live because I'm so busy trying to work and trying to get stuff situated with my channel and performing, making music, making beats, trying to get this EP finished. So it's just a lot of stuff that I'm working on, and I'm still trying to grow this YouTube channel and grow this new lane, if you will, because if y'all been following me, y'all would know that this whole spirituality thing, even though it may seem like I'm such a well-versed person about it, I'm still kind of new and I'm still learning about a lot of this stuff. So even though when y'all listen to these videos and I sound so confident about it, I'm still learning. So I still wouldn't even call myself a spiritual teacher or anything like that, because I still feel like I have a ways to go. But the biggest thing in my life was to truly find out who I am, because when you find out who you are and you start working in that purpose, that's when you start to meet your tribe. And then it gets to a point where once you meet your tribe, everything else starts to be fairly easy, because this is a big world, y'all, and the different heights and the different extremes that your purpose can take you is damn near limitless. I mean, you even have music artists and people like that who you may feel like is washed up in the USA, but they can go overseas and rack up. They can make hella money in the UK, in different Caribbean countries, and all over the world, even though in the US we may see that artist as being washed up. And I can't lie, shout out to Masterly Foolish for definitely putting me on the consciousness map. But even before Masterly Foolish, when I really started promoting my channel and really started promoting these videos about African spirituality, there was actually a whole lot of Africans and a whole lot of Nigerians and a whole lot of people from overseas who I would get most of my views from. And I would be getting messages from Ifa priests and Baba Laos, and that's when I really knew that I was on the right track with doing this type of stuff. When you got people who been talking about this stuff for years and people who was initiated into this stuff hitting you up and commending you and wanting to build with you, and you just a regular person who's never been initiated but have a spiritual relationship with the Orishas that can garner a totally different type of conversation, that's very valuable. And that's something that I really take to heart. And I know that me going on this path and learning more about spirituality and stuff like that, I know that this is only the beginning. And if I keep on this path and I keep putting energy towards it, I'm not going to do anything but just get better and better and better. And y'all will be with me every step of that journey. So just like what Tariq Nasheed said about the 300, while I'm in this infancy state, I'm going to always remember my 300, my small group of people who donated to me and who supported me and stuff like that before I even had 1,000 subscribers. And see, stuff like that really means a lot to people. And you don't forget stuff like that when you make it big and come up. So like I always say, I appreciate y'all. And yeah, I just can't wait to see what else this journey has to offer. So a lot of stuff been going on these past few days, ever since that whole Aquarius moon thing started going on. Just a lot of crazy expose stuff been going on. I've already been told by Spirit that the theme of this, ever since the Stargate or the Lionsgate that happened on August the 8th, Spirit has been telling me that the theme for pretty much the next couple months is going to be everything is not what it seems. And when I tell you, people been getting exposed, cars been getting pulled, I mean, it's crazy. And I'm not just even talking about my life. All in the news, all in the media, just everywhere I look, somebody's getting exposed for something, or somebody's secret that they've been holding and been able to get away with is being told, and people aren't looking at that person the same no more because they never knew that they had the type of past like that. And this is going to be a very, very big issue when it comes to a lot of today's women, because in my life, especially in the stuff that's been going on in the media, there's been a lot of women that's trying to go on their stages of enlightenment, but they've had a very, very promiscuous past, and they're kind of pissed off because their cocoon is see-through. So even though they trying to be a butterfly, people just aren't going to forget all that nasty stuff that they seen in that see-through cocoon while you was a caterpillar that turned you into that butterfly. And I can't lie, this is a drawback, and this is a con to wanting to be famous so bad. You got a lot of people who got their fame for doing very, very promiscuous and very, very explicit things that they can't really take back, maybe because they don't got enough money to be able to watch the internet or the things that they done. Either that, or you got certain women that pretty much made a name for themselves doing real stage 1 Lilith type of things, but nonetheless they did build a great name for themselves, even though that stuff is still going to be associated with that name. So you got a lot of women who think that they can go through these stages of enlightenment on one end and still try to keep their name, and then expect people to look at them for the butterfly that they are. And I'm sorry to tell y'all, that by definition is straddling the fence and trying to serve two masters, and that's just not going to work. And a part of me gets why they do it, because a lot of these women aren't in touch with their inner child, so they don't love themselves inwardly yet. And even though that outward name that they got for themselves have a lot of negativity associated with it, we living in a society to where they say that all press is good press, all publicity is good publicity, even if it's bad. So a lot of these women think that they can go through the stages of enlightenment on one end, and then on the other end they think that they can still get attention from their old name on the other end. And that's just not gonna work, because as long as you're doing that, no matter how much you try to flap your wings and show that you're a butterfly, people are gonna always look at you as that nasty stuff that they seen inside of that cocoon that was see-through. And reading between the lines, y'all will probably guess who I was talking about, but just like what Black Male Advice TV says, I don't have to say names or try to point people out because it's not just about them. This is just about people in general. When you got a virus on your computer and you didn't stop that virus from its beginning stages, and it gets to the point where your whole computer is now affected, and you take it to the shop to get it fixed, any tech person would tell you, no matter if you like it or not, they have to literally wipe your entire hard drive, and you literally got to start all the way from zero, because your computer is so infected with that virus to the point where you call yourself trying to save files and stuff like that, not adhering to the fact that that virus has infected your entire computer. You end up wiping it and getting it fixed, and then you try to put those same old files on there, and then you get pissed off when that virus comes back, and now your whole computer is affected again, and you got to pay more money to take it back to the shop so they can fix it again. And this is why when it really comes to this stuff, I spend a little bit more time on the women aspect than I do with the men, because for a woman that's used to getting a certain amount of attention, and for a woman that's used to getting a certain amount of validation and stuff like that, even if it's in a negative type of way, when a woman truly wants to go into those stages of enlightenment, she literally have to give up and wipe away everything and start all the way from the bottom. And then you're gonna find out that all of that stuff that you done had to purge from you, that stuff that you thought was valuable to you, the stuff that you really felt bad that you had to leave it behind, you find out that 95% of that stuff wasn't even conducive to your growth as a divine and righteous woman in the first place. And for a lot of women, this is what your inner child been wanting you to do from jump. And in a lot of cases, the reason why you got all this baggage and all of this unnecessary stuff going on with you to begin with is because this has been a process that you've either been ducking your whole life, because due to the stuff that happened to you in your past, you know that if you sit with yourself long enough and if you stay in hermit mode long enough, a lot of stuff is going to come up to the surface emotionally and spiritually and mentally that you got to deal with, aka battling those demons. And you feel like it's going to be so painful to do that instead you just try to bandage it up and you try to push it in and you try to use other things to try to soften the blow, and that stuff just keep piling up and piling up and piling up. Or it's a situation to where you might know what you need to do, but every time you get ready to start doing it, since you haven't learned to control your inner child, so anything your inner child wants, you give it to her. So you're constantly distracted by this music media manipulation, as well as that baby head program that's already mentally installed in you. So if the Most High never intervened and put an issue in your way to the point where you end up either losing everything or you end up getting a rude awakening, you would never go on those stages of enlightenment. All of us go on our stages of enlightenment in different ways. And like I said, even though they say that women mature faster than men, the way this world is set up, it's a lot harder for a woman at her innocence to go up those 3 stages of enlightenment without her innocence getting compromised. It's extremely hard. It's like you trying to be a vegan and you live in a gingerbread house and your dad is a butcher and your mom is a baker. It's a lot of stuff that you gotta abstain from if you're really serious about this. It's a lot of stuff that you're gonna have to give up for good if you really want to be serious about this. It's a lot of people that you gotta give up and stop hanging around if you're serious about doing this. And ultimately, there's a lot of things mentally and emotionally that you have to literally wipe it clean and give it up completely if you're serious about going on these stages of enlightenment. And I can already see it. A lot of this hot girl summer stuff and all this YOLO stuff and all of that, y'all think it's cool now, but when y'all really want to get serious and start going on these stages of enlightenment, it's going to be extremely hard for y'all, because every time you try to take a step forward, your past is going to try to make you take a step back. That's why it's so important that when you're really serious about going on that journey, you got to leave all of that behind, to the point where when you resurface again as the new being that you became, not only are people going to be able to look at your work and see the growth in your work, people that used to know you from back in the day, they shouldn't even be able to recognize your energy signature anymore if you went through these stages of enlightenment the right way. Because the way I feel is anybody can change, but if you're really serious about changing, you can't half-ass it. And when it comes to it, you can't talk about it. You literally have to be about it, because people are going to test you left and right, especially if you got a real crazy past, to the point where you've made videos and you got pieces of media of you doing your promiscuous past and doing your negative past, and people are going to try to bring that up and see can they get a reaction out of you that's going to remind them of that person that you used to be in the past. And for all of these women that's having this hot girl summer, once they get a little bit older and they start going on those stages of enlightenment, all the stuff that they did when they was younger doing the hot girl summer, all those porn videos that they made, all of those Instagram videos that they made where they was half naked twerking and sucking on cucumbers and all of that stuff, people don't realize that unless you really got some money to the point where you can really wipe yourself clean from the internet, no matter how much you change, that stuff is going to always be there staring you in the face, and you're going to have to be strong and you're going to be able to have to handle that. Because see, the thing is, if you did this right and you truly turned into that Obanani Akasha being, people ain't even going to be able to recognize you like that no more from that person that you was in your past. And the thing about it is, if your actions are a direct reflection of that stage 3 being that you claim that you are now, it's going to get to the point where all of those stage 1 savage dudes that like to spew out negativity about people and stuff like that, the more you stay steadfast and the more you stay righteous as a woman and you don't fold and you truly have turned over a new leaf and you truly have done that inner work to transform yourself, it's going to get to a point where it's going to make people sound real stupid to keep bringing up your past. Because see, the thing about it is, it's always going to be there. People are always going to be trying to look up your past and see what you did in the past and all of that. But when you truly make that change and you've been on this path for a while and you've never folded, you've never strayed from it, and people people can see your actions and those actions speak volumes, that's what makes your past your success story. I mean, look at Malcolm X, for example. Even though we all know him as Malcolm X and we remember him for the great things that he did as Malcolm X, you still got people in his hood that probably still remember him as Detroit Red. But since Malcolm X truly turned his life around for the better and he started blazing a new path for himself and his actions started to speak a lot greater than the stuff that he did when he was Detroit Red, all those hood dudes that try to bring that up about him being Detroit Red and all the stuff that he used to do, it make them seem stupid. It make them seem like haters. It make them seem like envious, low life, low level people, because we all know Malcolm X's past, but he's done so much positive and uplifting and monumental things to the black community that we can forgive him for being Detroit Red because we respect him as what he did when he was Malcolm X. Now, I understand that times now wasn't the same as the times back then. There was no Instagram and no YouTube and no internet to the point where you can literally go on the website and see somebody's past in HD. So a lot of people in this generation is going to be extremely hard depending on how crazy your past is and how much of that past is now a part of the music media manipulation. But I mean, it's still possible. It's very possible. You got guys who've been to prison and been drug dealers and all of that kind of stuff, coming out of prison, giving back to their community, starting businesses, being entrepreneurs, getting married and having children and setting their children up for success. And the only people who still care about his past and who still want to bring up his past are the white supremacists that put him in jail and also the hood niggas that he hung around that's envious of his change, because a lot of them still doing the same thing that they was doing and they pissed off that he was that one crab who was actually able to get out the barrel. So again, this path to righteousness, this straight and narrow path to enlightenment, is an extremely lonely road. And for us guys, we value solidarity a lot of times more than we value being around a lot of people, because when we get alone and we get into our hermit mode, that helps us to know ourselves. That helps us to get to know ourselves in a deeper way than we ever could have being distracted with trying to smash as many women as we can, or trying to fit in with the latest trend, or trying to impress your friends and all that kind of stuff. And when it comes to women, if they're able to get past that need for attention piece and that need for constant validation piece, when women get alone and they get into their hermit mode and they have to face those demons and fight those demons and be victorious, this is when they truly learn how to love themselves. So on my last rant video, I really focused on the women, talking about every woman is a single mother, because the first child that you have to learn how to nurture is your inner child. And then once you learn how to nurture that inner child, and then you go up the 3 stages of enlightenment and you meet that stage 3 man who's enlightened. Since your mentality is already of a mother and you already love your inner child like a mother, the way you're gonna love that man is like a grandmother. And like I said, a grandmother's love is the most divine love that you can ever get from a woman. So on this rant video, I want to talk a little bit more about how as a man, your innocence should be what makes you alpha. And even though I'm gonna focus a lot more on the guys with this video, when I say alpha, I'm also talking about women too, because shout out to Dr. BOA. He was right when he said that the alpha female is the greatest compatibility to the alpha male, because a woman who loves herself, I mean truly loves herself, that's what makes her alpha. And a man who knows himself, that's what makes him alpha in that woman's eyes. See, when a woman get past stage 2, and in this sense I'm talking about that woman who got past her stage 2 and she's still been cultivating that love with her inner child, once she gets to stage 3, all that stuff that she used to look for in a man, she learns that a lot of that stuff wasn't even as important as what she thought it was when she was climbing up the ladder. It starts to get to the point where she's not just trying to get with a guy just because he's a certain height or he has a certain dick size or a certain amount of money in his bank account. Now on the outside, a lot of guys, if they're not in their higher self, they may look at a stage 3 woman and think that they can impress her with all of that stuff. And then when they get rejected or when things don't go the way they thought it was gonna go, and then a lot of those guys get pissed off. But then they get mad when a guy comes up with some regular looking clothes on. He ain't flashy, but he ain't bummy either. He may not have a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or something like that, but he might have a real nice Honda Accord, or he might have a real nice Nissan or something, but it's real clean on the inside. And it's just something about that particular guy that when he walks into the room, he's so confident just in himself that he don't even have to do anything. She'll down there put a sign on top of her face saying, approach me, approach me, approach me. And all he gotta do is just walk up to her and say, hey, what's up? My name is so-and-so, so-and-so. What is your name? And boom, he got her. Now, what was the difference between guy number 1 and guy number 2? Because see, the thing about it is, guy number 1 may have spent his whole life trying to do everything that he feels like that is necessary to pull a beautiful woman. And now that he feels like he got all of these material possessions and he got all of this so-called game and all of this stuff, he feels like that he's just irresistible to women. So with him, rejection hits him a whole lot harder than guy number 2, who really don't care about if he get approached or not by women. He's just being him. He's just walking in his purpose, doing whatever he's doing, just having fun, doing his own thing. And it just so happens that every time he walks into a place where there's a lot of stage 3 women, he can just rack up and he not even be trying to get a woman or trying to be in a relationship. And I can't lie, this is something that I learned at a very young age, because you know, everybody has that point in their life where they just trying to fit in and they just trying to do what everybody else is doing that's hot. And you think that if you do the same thing that you see your friends doing, or if you do the same thing that you see other people do, maybe you would end up pulling the same bad chicks that you see your friends pulling. And then either number 1, it never works out for you because people are gonna know that you're fake, or number 2, it does work out for you, but you end up being in a lot of fucked up relationships and a lot of crazy situations with women because, yeah, you're drawing women to you, but since you're trying to do what everybody else is doing and that's not even authentic to you, the women that you are attracting to you now aren't women that's going to be compatible with you because, let's be honest, if you were your real authentic self, a lot of those women wouldn't have even gave you the time of day, which is a blessing in disguise, but you don't see it that way because you got such a one-track mind thinking that every man deserves a bad bitch when that's actually the contrary. Some men, if they was acting in their stage 3, they could actually attract a woman that's like Mayat. Some men who decide to start acting in their innocence and they start walking in their purpose, they find out that they're more attractive to Seshats, or they may be more attracted to Akasha women. And the crazy part about it is a lot of these women that I just named, they're going to be a lot more valuable to you in the long run than those bad bitches that you're seeing your friends and everybody else trying to get. Because I can't lie, man, that life of constantly partying and drinking all night and smoking and having all of this crazy sex and all of that stuff, that life gets old very, very, very quickly. And if you don't watch out, that life can drain you to the point where you start to age very, very quickly. I remember when I was little and I used to go places with my mom and I would see these young women and they were super young in age, but when you look at their face look old to the point where they might be 18 or 19, but they got the energy and the face of a 35-year-old. And I'll be like, dang, mom, did you see that lady? And my mom would be like, yeah, she looked like she done had a hard life. And then she give me this lecture about not drinking and not doing drugs and all of that stuff, because not only is a lot of that stuff bad for your body and you're going to pay for that over time the older you get, but spiritually that stuff fucks with your innocence. That's the reason why there's been a really, really big push to get these young kids on all of these crazy drugs and all of these crazy pills and all of this stuff that you shooting up with needles and all of that stuff, because the more disconnected you are to your innocence and your inner child, the more this system of soulless beings can control you to be another statistic in their agenda. So I've been talking to a lot of guys about this, you know, guys who aren't too macho to admit that they still got a lot of internal trauma and a lot of internal things that they're working on, and that even though they may be successful on one end, they're still trying to become that best alpha version of themselves on another end. And a lot of these guys thought that if they was able to go to the gym and work out, and if they was able to get that business off the ground, and they was able to have sex with all of those women that they was in high school with that dissed them back in the day, all of those women while they was in college trying to study to get their degree, a lot of those women rejected them. And now since they're successful, those women are jocking them and trying to get with them now and all of that stuff. And a lot of these guys, they be like, yeah, I may be successful on paper and I may be alpha on paper, but deep down inside and spiritually, they're still wondering why they're only attracting those stage 1 type of women around them. And I've heard a few people say this. I think the first person that I heard say this was Steve the Dean Williams, when he was saying that possessions don't make a man, clothes don't make a man, material things don't make a man. The only thing that's gonna make you a man, especially in a stage 3 woman's eyes, is your alpha essence. Shout out to Book of Alpharonomy for that term. And the only way that you're gonna be able to naturally cultivate your alpha essence is for you to cultivate that relationship with your inner child. Because you walking around and you got that going for you, you're naturally gonna be alpha, especially in a woman's eyes. And a lot of the times she's not even gonna understand why she's so attracted to you. Shout out to Ron Wills, because I've also had situations where I would get with chicks and they would be like, man, I don't even know how I ended up in your bedroom like that, because truth be told, you're not even really my type. And it's always something that they can't explain, but they're just attracted to it. Because at the end of the day, just like how with a woman, it's hard to find that woman who truly loves herself to the point where she don't really need validation from a man unless it's her man. She don't really need attention from a man unless it's her man. She don't really care about all this stuff that's going on in the world because she's so into her own career and whatever she's doing to help herself to become that helpmate to that stage 3 man. So 98% of the music media manipulation that's talking about being independent and being thotty and just being overly promiscuous and hypersexual, since that's not something that she's even trying to attract in her life, to most people, she's not even going to be relatable like that. And to be honest with you, she's not even going to be really looking for that guy, because at the end of the day, her essence is only going to be attractive to stable light. And when a man is truly a man and he's cultivated that relationship with his inner child to the point where that light that's emanating from that makes him look like a grand son. Because see, let me give y'all another tidbit of information from ancient Kemet, because when we look at the ancient gods and goddesses of ancient Kemet, we see that our inner child represents Amun-Ra, and Amun-Ra represents the hidden sun. And as a man, our inner child, aka our hidden sun that resides in our solar plexus, soul, S-O-L, representing sun. Y'all get it now? If y'all didn't, let me break this down again in 2 different ways. Y'all remember that video game called Sonic the Hedgehog? Yeah, I'm kind of telling my age now, but I remember when I was a kid, probably because I hung around my uncle on my mom's side a lot more than I hung around my uncle on my dad's side, who was really into video games. And especially since my uncle on my mom's side was only 3 years older than me, so he was able to get all the latest video games and stuff like that. So one of the first game systems that I ever played as a kid was the Sega Genesis. So naturally, I always liked Sonic the Hedgehog over Mario. And the one thing that I really liked about Sonic the Hedgehog was those little crates that you jump on top of, and it will put this ball-like force field around you. And each of these ball-like force fields will have a different type of power associated with it. So if you had the force field that was like a bubble, the powers that force field will give you is that now instead of you running around, you can actually bounce around like a ball. And also, if you got that particular force field around you, when you jump in water, you're invincible as far as you can breathe underwater as long as you got that force field around you. Then they had the force field that was a bubble made out of fire. So now with this force field, you can blast past enemies and burn them up, and you can pretty much turn yourself into a fireball. And then they had this other force field that was like a ball of thunder. And with this force field, any type of rings that's around you, it'll literally just attract itself to you. You wouldn't even have to pick up the rings. They'll just attract themselves to you. Now, the goal would be when you find one of those force field bubble power-ups, you would try your best to keep that throughout the whole game. But see, the farther you go in the game, the harder and harder and harder it's going to be, because at the end of the day, there's a whole bunch of enemies around to burst that bubble. And the thing about it is, when the enemies burst his bubble, he don't initially start to lose rings. But as long as you don't have that bubble around you, now you're fully exposed to all the elements. So if you jump in water, if you don't hurry up and find a bubble in time, you might drown. And now, since you don't got that ball of thunder around you, you know that you're not going to be able to pick up every single ring because Sonic runs too fast for that. So you might have to end up leaving a lot of rings behind. And then last but not least, since you don't have no force field of protection around you, now if you get hit by an enemy, now you lose all your rings. So let's picture your inner child as Sonic the Hedgehog going through your different stages of enlightenment. And every time you go through a different stage, you receive a different power up to add to your bubble to make you a lot stronger in your stages of enlightenment. Translation: as a man, you're going through these stages of enlightenment, you're learning about different things that will affect your inner child in negative ways. So the more you go through things and the more you go through these stages of enlightenment, you get that wisdom and knowledge to be able to protect your inner child in different ways. And see, while you're doing this inner work and you're doing this shadow work and you're around other people who aren't even doing the same thing themselves, the main thing people gonna say is, man, he in his own little bubble over there. Sometimes I don't even be thinking that he be listening when I be talking to him. It just be like he be in his own little world sometimes, because spiritually you are in your own little world, because you're trying to build that impenetrable force field bubble around your inner child. And the more and more you go through these stages of enlightenment, even though your inner child will be able to fend for itself as long as you with the controller are making the right moves, there's always going to be hella enemies trying to burst your bubble. There's going to be hella enemies that's going to try to get you to step outside of your bubble. And sometimes there are going to be hella enemies that are trying to get you to burst your own bubble. Now, remember in my example about Sonic the Hedgehog, you got the clear bubble, you got the fire bubble, and you got the thunder bubble. What does this mean in your regular life as a man? That clear bubble represents you being able to bounce through your emotions unharmed without drowning in them to the point where you got to quote unquote come up for air. What does that fire bubble mean? We know that fire represents passion. We know that fire represents your spirit when it's hyped up. That fire represents that inner confidence. It represents that inner passion that's going to keep you on your purpose even when things aren't seeming like it's going to work out. Even when things seem like it's all over, you're going to always be able to blast your way to the top because you got that inner motivation. And see, this goes for women too, because when a woman starts to love herself, she starts to have that inner fire and that inner passion and that inner motivation in herself too that she would normally look for outside of herself. She would normally look for another guy to validate her. She would normally look for another guy to motivate her or give her that love that only she can give herself. And then last but not least, you got the bubble that's made out of thunder and lightning. And I know for me, out of all the bubbles on Sonic the Hedgehog, this was my favorite one, because see, even me playing Sonic the Hedgehog, one of my biggest pet peeves is that I won't feel right winning Sonic the Hedgehog unless I could win it with hella rings. And with that Thunderball, I don't have to worry about trying to walk into every ring, because with that Thunderball, the rings would attract themselves to me and I can just worry about finishing the rest of the stage. Now, translation: every time I think of thunder, I always think about Shango. So let's talk about the Orishas. So upon making this video, I had another small channel by Oshun, because every time I meditate and I go into that realm of the Orishas, every time I see Oshun, Shango is always towering over her and she's always up under him. So in my meditation, I asked Oshun, why is it that you're always up under Shango? And what she said was very, very profound, and it made a lot of sense. She said that every time I'm up under him, I feel like the sun is shining down on me. And I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense, because when you got that thunderous aura about you and you got that thunderous presence that makes you electric when you enter a room, it literally makes everybody notice that you're there. And whatever those rings symbolize to you, whether it's women, whether it's money, whether it's opportunities that you wouldn't have gotten any other situation, these are the things that just seem to attract themselves to you without you really having to do anything. Just stand there, just like playing Sonic the Hedgehog, when you got that thunderball around you and you just stand in a crowd of rings and all the rings just attract themselves to you one by one by one. So that's why this stuff is very, very important, because as a man, you building that relationship with your inner child, you're cultivating your alpha essence, and you don't even know it. You don't even recognize it, because I know with me, I never called myself alpha. I don't even really identify myself with those terms because I'm not really too big on fraternities anyway. And that was the first time that I ever heard the words alpha and beta and sigma and all of that was through fraternities. And I never really had an inkling to even want to be in a fraternity, so I never really associated myself with those words. But it's like the more I listen to these alpha male YouTubers just talk about what does it truly mean to be alpha, almost down to the T, that stuff represents me just in my everyday life. And I'm over here like, I I didn't know that this stuff that I'm doing on a regular basis means that I'm alpha. I'm just being me. And this is why when you learn how to be appreciative of yourself, you learn how to be comfortable in your own skin, whether you got on a polo shirt and some jeans from Walmart, or if you got on a St. Laurent shirt and some $2,000 Louis sneakers. And just another tidbit, because little do y'all know, I'm still working on this Biggie thing and this Pac thing. I just do my podcast and they just come through and give me little nuggets and little stuff to tell y'all. And when it comes to this subject, one thing that I got from Biggie was that he told me that the reason why he was so confident like he was that he said that he always seen himself as bigger than what he was, even when he wasn't. And I mean, even just that statement alone was a mouthful, because how many of y'all men out there are able to see yourself as bigger than what you currently are, even though you're not? Man, now that's some confidence right there. And another thing that I got through a channel with Big, that he was like, the reason why a lot of these dudes is scared to go out there and let women attract themselves to them is simply because they don't understand that you are who you attract. Biggie was like, when I was down on my luck and I was just in the hood trying to make it, when you look at my first baby mama, that's what she symbolized. And at the end of the day, that's what attracted him to her so much that he ended up giving her a baby. Then the farther he got in his career and the more success that he ended up getting, the badder the chicks that he would start to attract to him. I mean, look at Lil' Kim. I mean, no. Don't look at Lil' Kim. Look at Lil' Kim back in the 90s when she was with Biggie. And look at how Biggie was able to take Lil' Kim, put her under his wing and teach her the game, teach her how to flow and teach her how to really be commanding and aggressive with her lyrics, to the point where Biggie transformed her into a version of Oshun, aka the Queen Bee, because Biggie was acting in his Papa Legba energy. That's why towards the end of his life, he started to call himself Big Papa, aka Big Papa Legba. And then once he got a lot more commercial in his career again, he upgraded again. And that's how he got with Faith Evans. Now, when you look at female nature, all of them are the same. But when you just look at it from a standpoint as far as you upgrading due to your career and your success and all of that kind of stuff, you could see how all three of those women in some kind of way was a reflection of Biggie. And let me also break this down again in a more anime type of reference. Y'all know Dragon Ball Z? Y'all remember what it takes for Goku to do his spirit bomb attack. Remember how when Goku first starts off, he jumps into the air and he's like, everybody share your energy with me. And he starts to cultivate the essence of the plants. He starts to cultivate the essence of the sea life. He starts to cultivate the essence of all the people around him who willingly want to give him their energy, because they know that at the end of the day, this is the only way that this world is about to be saved, and they want to see him win. And the more and more he cultivates that energy, that spirit bomb gets bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point where his spirit ball is damn near bigger than the sun itself. And when it's time for him to release that, man, can't nothing stand in the path of that spirit bomb, because not only does his enemies get crushed and get pretty much obliterated by the spirit bomb, if he make that spirit bomb too big, it could damn near crush a whole planet to smithereens. Y'all seen what happened when he did it to Frieza. Now, why did I bring up Dragon Ball Z talking about your inner child? Translation: picture your inner child now as Goku. With all my guys out there who are empaths, you can feel the energy of the environment around you all the time. That's why it's so important for you to make sure that you're always going to be in an environment that's conducive to your spiritual growth, conducive to your positivity, and just overall conducive to your soul path. So that way, all the energy that you pick up from your environment is going to be something to help your spirit grow. And then this is also why it's important that if you do decide to have friends around you and stuff like that, make sure you got people around you who want to see you win. Make sure you got people around you who want to make sure that your world stays peaceful, because every time you have people around you who have that type of energy, that's going to be very beneficial to you. And just like that spirit ball, as long as you're on your soul path and you're getting all this success and all these achievements and all this stuff, you're going to be not only crushing your enemies, but when it comes to women, they're just not going to know how to act around you. And Dr. BOA calls this attraction confirmation. And I can't lie, man, you can really gauge how high or how low your alpha essence really is by the type of women that show you attraction confirmation. And I agree with BOA when he say that, because now, as I always do, this is the part of the podcast where I just want to talk to y'all a little bit just about some things that I learned about women, simply because my innocence, aka my alpha essence, was so potent in the place that I was in, to the point where I would get that attraction confirmation. And the thing about it is, just like that story that I told y'all about Yemoya and Aganju when they met, there was really no talking involved. Because see, this is something that I learned about women, and I'm still not going to put all women in this category, because women that's on their stage 3, the one thing that they truly learn about is their limit. Since they learn and they know that their flesh is weak, if they know that certain guys may turn them on sexually, but they may not be good for their spiritual path, since she knows herself and she loves herself, she's not even gonna put herself in those type of environments where those type of guys may be there to cause that temptation. Because in general, since women act more on their emotions than they do with their logic, if a woman gets into a situation to where her libido gets raised high enough, her sense of logic is the first to go, and pretty much whatever it is that her inner child wants is gonna get it, no matter if it's good or not. For example, with a lot of mothers, if there's no dad around to regulate the masculinity in the situation, if that mother has a young child and that child wants something out the store or something like that, since that mother is very feminine and very nurturing of that child, if that child starts crying enough and that child starts temper tantrum enough, eventually that mom is just going to give in and give that child whatever it wants, even if they may be asking for some chips, or even if they may be asking for some junk food or some candy or something something like that you know is going to be bad for their teeth, or something that you know is going to give them an upset stomach if they don't eat no solid food before it. And a way to really prove this is a simple study that I did, and I think I talked about this before on the video that I did about the woman's imprint, either the one that I did with Hood Mystic or just the one that I did explaining the woman's imprint. And I was telling you about these series of videos, and I think they were called Estrogen Lit or Estrogena Lit or something like that. And this Estrogena Lit is like a pill for women who lost their sex drive or women who have trouble getting in the mood for sex, and this pill is used to artificially raise her libido. So now, since her libido is raised, now she would want to be in the mood for sex. And like I told y'all, when I look at videos like this, it's not for any sexual reasons or anything like that. I just like to look at these videos just to study women and how they act in different situations, kind of like a scientist when he got his lab rats and he put his lab rats through different mazes and different situations to see how that lab rat is going to adapt and react to the situation. And I would see how when they were in their logical frame of mind, they would tell the doctor that, yeah, I got a husband at home, or I got a boyfriend and we're in a very loving relationship and all of that type of stuff. So these women weren't single. They had men at home and they just came to that doctor so they can spice up their sex lives, because since their libido was so low, they wasn't able to get in the mood and have sex with their partner. And so the doctor would give those women one of the estrogen-lit pills just as a sample, just to see how it affect them and all that kind of stuff. And it never failed. Every woman who took that pill literally would have the same reaction. Their hair would get real frizzy. Their eyes would get real dilated. Their legs start squirming around. They can't control their legs. You can see little small drops of sweat around them. Their mouth starts to get real watery. So now that these women are quote unquote in heat, this is when I started to study how one by one, the more that doctor would be in the room with them, talking to them and telling them how they should go back to their partners and all of that stuff. They should go back to their husband and back to their boyfriend. I would see how the more that pill would kick in, the more and more her emotions would take over, and the less and less her logic would be able to stop her from doing the things that her flesh wants her to do. Now, every woman's excuse was different when they had sex with the doctor. Some of the women, after the deed was done, they was crying, talking about, I don't know how I did this. Something just came over me and I just can't believe that I let myself do this. Then some of the women, while the doctor is trying to push them away from him, they're telling him that, yeah, I got a man at home, but he's usually busy or he's usually at work all the time, so he really don't have no time for me like that. One of the women pretty much told the truth about her situation, talking about even though she got this pill to raise her libido, her man isn't really that good in bed, so she knows that she's not going to be satisfied having sex with her own man. Then there were some of the women who would just lie and be like, I don't want to do nothing with you, I just want you to hold me, or I just want to kiss you, or just something small. And then the minute he got close to her, she would just pounce on him like an animal. And then last but not least, there was just some women there that was pretty much no talking. They just went for it, and after the deed was done, they didn't even care about the consequence or anything. They was just glad that they got something released that they've been holding in for a long time. Now, a lot of guys would take this different ways. Some guys would be like, this is why women can't be trusted, because if a woman is in a situation where she's been drinking or something like that, or she might just be sober and she end up meeting a guy whose alpha essence is greater than yours, he can pretty much overtake her and hijack her from you. And then you have other guys that'll say that this is why I wouldn't get into a relationship with a woman, simply for that same reason. And pretty much your opinion is your opinion. The way I look at it is, a woman's nature is a woman's nature is a woman's nature. And if something like that is gonna stop you from messing with women, then that means that you got a lot of more work to do with yourself, in my opinion. Because the way you should feel about yourself at all times is that the light that you cultivated in yourself, when you give that light to a woman, you make sure that that light is so authentic and is so bright to the point where it's so unique that she's not gonna want to go nowhere else. I mean, why should she, when all these other guys out here is acting like all these other guys out here, and you're the only one that's standing out and shining bright, and you're pure and you're innocent at heart, righteous in spirit, and alpha in essence, and you think she's just gonna leave you and not try to come back? Man, fellas, you gotta start thinking a lot more highly of yourself than that, because when you do, you're not gonna care if she comes or goes. Because just like that example with Biggie, when you upgrade and you move into a higher plateau of consciousness, you should expect people to drop from your life, because you're no longer in that space spiritually and mentally and emotionally to even support them anymore. So you should damn near be looking for that, the higher up in consciousness and the higher up in this stage of enlightenment that you go. So stuff like that shouldn't even bother you. And just like what VOA said, once you start to get attractive women show you that attraction confirmation, it's going to get to the point where you're not even really going to want to approach women like that unless they're giving you that right off the bat. So I know this video is kind of long, but I still want to give y'all some examples of some Erzuli Freda like situations that happened to me, because if y'all wonder why I brought Erzuli Freda into this, go back to the podcast that I did about Selena and that whole experience that I had with the energy of Erzuli Freda. Now, a little bit before I did that video about the underworld and the Erzulis, I had a real situation that happened similar to that experience that I told y'all that I had in my meditation with Erzuli Freda. So this situation happened on the last week of 2018 going into 2019. So I was at this club, and it was more of a Latin type of club. So every time I go to this club, I always feel out of place because I don't know how to do any of those dances. I mean, I would like to learn though, but I would pretty much just go there because since I got some homeboys that work security there, I can get in for free and I can get a discount on drinks and stuff. And you know me, anything that's free, I'm a bend that joint. So I go in there and I got my little beer, just sitting around peeping the scene like I usually do. So they start playing some regular hip-hop type of music. So I go on the dance floor, and I kid you not, I can't make this up. I'm just doing my little two-step, and this chick literally falls into my arms, and that was pretty much the icebreaker. I mean, I could tell she was drinking a little bit, and she was definitely older than me, because like I tell y'all, I don't know what it is about me, but I've always attracted older women to me. It never fails. So we ended up talking, and even though she was an older woman, she was very, very beautiful, because she took care of herself really, really well. And it was crazy because she had a friend that she had with her that all the other guys was trying to get on. But the thing about it was, she looked a lot better than her friend. It was just that her friend was a lot more easier to let guys dance on her. But this chick, I'm gonna call her Cynthia. But Cynthia, she ain't play that. She was one of those types that would have fun and just dance by herself. And anytime a dude would try to dance with her or whatever, because I can't lie, she had a nice ass. But that's beyond the point, y'all. That's beyond the point. Let's stay focused. She wouldn't really give anybody a chance. So the more we ended up talking, the more I could feel her inner child, which is something that was kind of different, because a lot of women at that age is still trying to find themselves. So they're usually spiritually asleep. So when you see their inner child is in a dark place, which would pretty much explain the mental state that she's probably in. And believe me, I know what it feels like to be with a woman that's in a dark place, and it is not good at all, no matter how fine she is. So I pretty much knew that once we established that interconnection, it was pretty much over. And I can't lie, I really, really did enjoy being around her, to the point where we started dancing together. Now, one thing that I did learn when it comes to dancing, especially dancing with women, is that even on the dance floor, she would try to test you. She would try to throw that thing back. Shout out to Ken Edwin TV, as well as CT for that. But I'm telling y'all, when a woman do that, the one thing that she's trying to make sure is, number one, that you can handle her, that you're not staggering back and all of that stuff. So she's testing to see, do you truly have a masculine frame in the midst of this femininity that's in front of you? And then also that means that if you can guide her and keep up with the rhythm on the dance floor, especially when it comes to those Latin dances and those Caribbean dances, that translates to, are you going to be able to keep that same rhythm and keep that same guidance with them in the bedroom? Now, I can't lie, I didn't know what I was doing on the dance floor, but the beautiful part about it was she didn't really know what she was doing either. So even though I was doing my little two-step, I had my hand around her hips, and I was guiding her along with me while I was doing my little two-step, you know, adding a little swag to it. And she was cool with that. She was like, damn, I don't know this dance, but I love it. Now at this point, all the dudes around me were heated, because this chick got her booty all up on me, and all of those guys she rejected, and I just pop up on the scene and just start regulating shit. You know what I mean? And it was funny because I would leave, go to the bathroom, go get another drink, and I would case the scene, and I would see those dudes trying to holler at her while I'm gone, and she would patiently be waiting for me to come back. So then they tried to assume that we was together, and no, that was not the case. It was just something about me that she wanted me all on her. So now I got dudes coming up to me talking about, is that your girl? And I'm like, nah, she ain't my girl. I just met her tonight. So I end up dancing back with her again, and things just got so heated, and things just got so steamy between us, to the point where literally she laid down on one of the couches and literally pulled me on top of her. So I'm like, shit, what do I do now? So I pretty much did what any man who got a attractive, beautiful woman that just pulled you on top of them would do. So at that moment, we just started making out. And man, when I tell you, I could just feel the tension getting so heavy. Like even the security guard was shocked when he saw it. So now it's to the point where she can't keep her eyes off me, she can't keep her hands off me, and now she can't keep her lips off me. So now it's getting towards the point where it's almost time to go, and she's sitting in my lap at this point, and inside I can feel her logic still trying to cling on, but her inner child is really giving her a run for her money because of the essence that I had. So we would kiss a little bit, then I would tell her, you know, you keep on doing this, we're gonna have to get up out of here. And then her logic kicks in. She was like, nah, I'm not one of those type of women. I'm not about to have sex with a stranger that I just met. I mean, in order for us to have sex, you're gonna have to get to know me first. And it's weird because it's like when I looked at her eyes, it was like she had this look to where it was like, just tell me something to make me want to do when I don't want to do, because I want to do it. So I'm like, cool, let's go ahead and get to know each other right now. What's your name? She was like, oh, my name is Cynthia. What's yours? I said, my name is Rick. And for those last 15 minutes, we pretty much had the conversation that you would have if you was going out on a date with somebody. So after that conversation, we switched numbers, kissed again when we went outside, and she went home and I went home. So I'm like, okay, maybe she was just drunk and I had a good time. She had a good time. So I ain't really think nothing else about it. So she hit me up. She was like, yo, I still can't forget the time that we had last night. I really enjoyed you kissing me. I want you to kiss me some more, all of this other stuff. So I'm like, okay, let's meet up. Then her logic kicked in. Nah, I'm not like those other girls who you just have sex with on the first night of meeting somebody. You know, we gotta have a relationship and really get to know each other and all this type of stuff. So I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I'm not looking for a relationship right now. I just got out of one, so I'm just kind of chilling right now, just having fun, dating from time to time, and just pretty much doing me. So I don't really think that's something that she really wanted to hear. So she ended up hanging up after we had our conversation, and I thought it was pretty much over until later that night. She hit me up. She was like, look, I really want you to come see me. I've been thinking about you all this time, and I just want to chill with you. See, this is her inner child talking. But then the logic kicked in. She was like, now, don't get it twisted. I'm not trying to have sex with you or nothing like that. We're just simply just gonna talk. We're gonna chill. I want to hear your music, you know, stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. I ain't really doing nothing right now, so I'll slide through. But then she was like, yo, make sure you bring a drink with you. And y'all know what drink mean. So mama ain't raised no fool. So I'm the type of person, when I go to a woman's house or I go to meet a woman, even if we just cool, just something in me always tells me to be prepared for nothing. So I got my things and went to meet her. And all I'm gonna say is I'm glad that that drink wasn't the only thing that I bought with me that night. Because like I said, man, that alpha energy is powerful. It really is. And it has to come from a place of purity. It has to come from a place of originality and authenticity. And ultimately, it has to come from a place of innocence, meaning it has to come from your inner child. You know what? I know this video was super long, but I'm feeling good tonight. So I'm gonna tell y'all another story. And this story is pretty much about how when you go into a place where there's a lot of women at, and your main goal when you go there is to get a woman, you just put off this real thirsty and desperate type of energy. See, I always have my best results when I go out, when I literally be like, look, I'm finna just have fun. I'm finna just enjoy life and just have a good time. And every single time I go out with that type of mindset, good things just fall into my lap, like that situation. So this situation happened a few years ago, right before I came to Orlando. And this story didn't end with sex simply because I was in a relationship at the time. And even though things in my relationship was rocky at the time, I'm still a faithful guy, meaning that when I'm in a relationship with somebody, it's just certain things and certain lines that I'll never cross, no matter how crazy the relationship may be or how fine the temptation is. I'm just that type of person to where if I'm in a relationship, I'm in that relationship. Now, that's never gonna stop me from having fun and being me and doing me, but it's just certain things that are exclusive to my relationship that I just won't break. So when I used to live in Atlanta, there was this reggae club that I like to go to in Tucker called 426. And 426 was a real dope reggae club because it was authentic, meaning most reggae clubs in Orlando, they might play 80% hip hop and 20% reggae dance hall, where at 426, it was 80% reggae dance hall, 10% soca, and then 10% hip hop. So there would be some very beautiful Caribbean women, Brazilian women, a lot of women from Queens, a lot of women from Brooklyn. Pretty much with these type of women, they don't just twerk when they dance, they whine. And it's one of them type of situations to where if you can't stay on rhythm with them and really take charge as a man when you dancing with them, they will literally dish you. And I can't lie, my first night there, I got dissed by a woman because she was trying to dance with me and I ain't know how to do the moves. And I said, fuck this. I spent like 3 or 4 days going on YouTube and learning all the dance hall songs and all the dance hall moves and all of that until I came across this magic dance that I still do to this day. And this magic dance pretty much work with a lot of the dance hall songs, except for the ones that have a specific dance. And that dance is called the log on. Now, I love this dance because it's like a glorified two-step. It just got some Jamaican swag to it. And I learned that if you dance with a girl and you do the log on and you able to spice it up and move your hips around a little bit while she's sexy whining on you, that's when I really started to have positive results going to that club. So one Saturday I went and it was kind of a slow night. And when I say slow night, I mean that it was kind of a sausage fest. It was mostly dudes there, and the girls who were there were booed up, or they pretty much had a whole bunch of dudes swarming around them to the point where it was damn near impossible to get a dance with them. Now, mind you, this particular Saturday was very special because not only was this the last Saturday that I was ever going to go to 426 because I was about to go to Orlando to go to Full Sail, this just so happened to be the Saturday of Carnival. So it started out real slow, but man, when I tell y'all the shit picked up, it picked up. It got super packed, and a lot of women from the Carnival came to that club because since it's an authentic Jamaican club that played soca, you would have a lot of those women that have those real peacock type of outfits on. They was up in there. The club up the street was having a bikini party. So since 426 closed up a lot later than all the other clubs around that area, when that club closed down, a lot of those women ended up coming. So man, when I tell you, it was crazy that night. Now, among all the other women that showed up, there was this one woman in particular that I kind of had my eyes on. I ain't even gotta tell you. You already know she was an older woman that looked real young for her age. Not to mention, it was sundress season, and she had this sundress on, and when I tell y'all, she had a bubble let that bubble and she was poking that thing out. CT on the beat. So even though I'm dancing with other girls and stuff like that, it was just something about this woman that just kept piquing my interest, because every time dudes would try to dance with her, even though she had a real nice booty, she would turn them down because she just really wanted to just dance by herself. So I'm like, I don't know what it is, but those are the type of women that I always end up going for. So it's just one of those things to where when you just going to have a good time, you don't really have to rush things. Things just happen and opportunities just fall in your lap just for you being at the right place at the right time. So it's getting real hot, and you know, at these reggae clubs, it's always that one little area where the air condition is at, so everybody trying to squeeze in that one spot. So I get to that spot where the air is blowing and I see her there. Now behind her is this row of guys, and they all looking at her booty, but everybody's too afraid to approach her simply because they were some of those guys that tried to approach her earlier and she rejected them. So again, we got the same situation that I had with Cynthia. Now I don't know what it is about Aquarius women and Libra women, but those are the signs that attract themselves to me on a regular basis. I just don't know. So I just felt like this was one of those situations to where I was just at the right place at the right time. So unlike those other guys who just wanted to jump up behind her and start grinding on her, I went up to her and said, hey, what's going on? What's your name? She was like, oh, my name is Stacy. So just like with Cynthia, me and her started talking. I found out that she was an Aquarius, made a couple jokes. She started laughing, and I found out the reason why she didn't really want to dance with a whole lot of dudes was because she had her 2 daughters in the club with her. I think they was like 18 or 19, and she wasn't really trying to show out like that in front of them. So I was like, okay, I understand that. But see, sometimes I believe in fate. And some things is just meant to happen when you just at the right place at the right time. So we talking, and all of a sudden, her favorite song comes on. You know, that song about the broke it down, broke it down. So for all of my dance hall heads, y'all know how this song started off. It'd be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So around that time, while it's doing that, this is usually the time where guys start looking around and start looking for a girl to dance with. Pretty much like when you go to a hip hop club and you hear you're like, oh snap, let me go find a girl to go dance on. So I see her start to move her hips a little bit. So I'm like, look, check this out. Now I see we both here for the same thing. I'm trying to get me some air and you trying to get you some air. So since we're here together, we might as well dance with each other. And she was like, shit, okay. So you know, we started dancing slow at first because it didn't get to the broke it down part yet. But man, it got to that part, and when I tell you, anybody who was probably from the outside looking in, they would have thought I was smashing her on the dance floor the way she was moving when that song ramped up. And I was enjoying every bit of that Georgia peach. It was crazy, I tell you. I mean, it got to the point where her daughters ended up thanking me because they was like, man, I didn't think she was gonna dance with nobody. So it must be something about you that make her even want to get up and dance. So they was like, look, take care of my mama. And I'm over here like, huh? Y'all already throwing me to y'all mama? And y'all don't even really know who I am like that. I could be a nice serial killer. And the shit was so magnetic to the point where, just like the situation with Cynthia, every time she would move and a guy would try to get behind her, she would literally grab my waist with her arms behind her. So even though she's moving to a different location, I'm still all up behind her. And needless to say, we pretty much danced with each other for the rest of the night. And one thing she told me was, she was like, this was her first time in a long time going to a club, because she's usually one of those homebody type of women who don't really go out unless it's a special occasion or her birthday, or if her daughters just really drag her out the house and force her to go out. And she was like, just the same way that every time I walk around, guys are trying to dance with me and grab on my ass and all that type of stuff. She was like, she don't really wear the type of stuff that she wore to the club that night because of that. She was like, I'm a bus driver, so outside of here, I'm usually wearing either long dresses that don't hug my curves, or I'm wearing my baggy pants that I wear at work, because she was one of those type of women to where she knows the type of body she got and she really don't like all of that negative attention. And I respected that, because I like those type of women who dress real modest even though they got a banging body. And in most situations, unless you really got with her, you wouldn't even truly know what her shape is. But when you find out, boy, is it a surprise. And it's a good surprise too. Now, needless to say, since I was in a relationship, she gave me her number, but I ended up giving it to one of my homies and they ended up hooking up and doing everything else. But I just wanted to tell y'all those stories because I just want to show y'all in my life that this actually works. Now, I'm not gonna sit up here and say that every single time I go out I get this reaction, because I don't. But at the same time, I'm not looking to. When I go out, I just like to have fun, have a few drinks, go out and just enjoy myself. I don't always have to have a woman around me all the time just to have fun, and I don't have to have a woman's validation like that to measure whether I'm alpha or not, because my alpha comes from my inner child. My alpha comes from me walking into my purpose and seeing those results that I get from those people that say that I help them and all of that type of stuff. That's the type of stuff that makes me feel good. But the only reason why I know this is because I got to know my inner child, and my innocence is what makes me alpha. So that's my rant video. I know this was a lot longer than my last one, and this is part 3. This is probably the last part that I'm gonna do about this. I really don't think I'm gonna do any more, but I don't know. Something might come up within these next few days and I might have to do a get to know your inner child part 4. So y'all just stay tuned, and I really want to have a discussion about this. Let me know how y'all feel about it. What are some things that y'all did to get to know y'all inner child? What are some things that y'all went through that maybe forced you to get to know your inner child? And what are some positive things that's happening in your life now that you've gotten to know your inner child? So these are the things that I really want to have a discussion about. I would really like to get you all's opinion on it, and I would really like to get you all's thoughts about this matter, because this is very important, y'all. I mean, for real, this is very important. In this time that we're in right now, where these soulless beings are lurking left and right, like the Bible says, like a roaring lion trying to see who they can devour. The only way that you're going to be able to fight this system is with the protection that only your soul, only your inner child is going to be able to give, because your inner child is the purest thing about you. Remember that. So y'all know the rest. Follow me on Instagram, BandClap TV, Melly Amar, Jewelry and Gemstones, shop Melly Amar for all of your jewelry needs. My email for if y'all got any products that y'all want to promote or anything as far as interviews and stuff like that. If you're an artist, my email is definitely below in the description, as well as any donations that you would like to give. I always appreciate anything that you can give to help me make this channel better and just to help me get better equipment. And yeah, until next time, BandClap TV, we out.